What is good, YouTube? Welcome to your ultimate guide on how to hit more shots and just have better aim in Battlefield 6. It's very simple to say, but a bit harder to do. There's a lot of mechanics and things that actually work against you, from just different settings in game, general gameplay mechanics, and even certain attachments make hitting your shots overall a bit harder. So I got you guys fully taken care of here today. So let's not waste any time and let's jump straight into it. First thing you guys want to do before I can tell you absolutely anything on how to make sure you hit more shots, the biggest thing is having better centering. And what I mean by centering is, if you can see by any of my gameplay, the centering is when I have my crosshair on my screen looking at a general direction in which I think an enemy is going to come from, largely speaking at chest or above height. I am always looking in a specific area. I'm never looking up, down, running in a weird angle. I'm always positioning myself to be at the best possible advantage for when someone comes through a doorway, comes around a corner, anything else like that. That makes a large difference in any first-person shooter you play. So I'd highly recommend you guys work on your centering. If that's not something you're consciously doing, make sure you're always facing the correct direction, not looking too high, not looking too low. It makes all the difference in the world, and sometimes that right there can be a massive difference maker in your overall kill death ratio, and if you're going to survive longer, or if you're just going to keep on hitting that respawn button or needing to be picked up. One of the next things I think a lot of people will struggle with, and maybe have figured out or have not figured out, is that you really can't go full auto a mass majority of the time, especially out past about 30 to 50 meters. Going full auto from that range is almost borderline useless. Your bullets are going to basically be painting a shadow around the enemy, because they're not going to be hitting, or maybe a small fraction of them will be hitting. So I'll jump into the firing range with you guys and show you how to do this. All right, so now that we are in the firing range, I got my trusty SR. This is basically the SCAR, for you guys that want to be able to call it by kind of its general name everyone knows it as. But this gun really has very low recoil, and you can essentially full auto this out to a good distance. And it's one of the guns that actually has very good accuracy. And you can tell I'm actually controlling this a little bit, but it's not the most accurate for distance if you're only going to be essentially going full auto. At the first couple of ranges here, you're going to be able to see 10, 15, 20, basically out to about this third sort of dummy. We have first one right here, second one, and then the third one. That's where essentially full auto is going to be perfectly okay. But out to here, that's where your bullets, you can see, are going to start deviating quite substantially, and you'll start essentially painting a picture around that target, which is not good. And obviously what that is, if you guys aren't familiar with the term, that is called bloom. And to help mitigate that as much as possible, and one way we're gonna do is we're gonna start tap firing. So we can go full auto right here, full auto right here, full auto here. But then after we get out to this range, we're gonna start tap firing a little bit. You can basically hold it down maybe for bursts of 2 to 3 bullets, maybe even longer than that. Just kind of hold down until it starts going off target, and then you're going to be able to take people out much more consistently at range. Something you also want to be, cognizant of is this thing that I do by default is just kind of moving around and strafing back and forth, because that actually causes bloom. That is something my inner Call of Duty player will do, just because that is what kicks in rotational aim assist, and it still does kick in aim assist in this game, but it does make it so that your bullets are going to deviate a bit more the more you move. Also, depending on the class of gun you're using, that will largely make it so that your shots will deviate a lot more. They will branch out. And obviously, bloom in this game can be very annoying. We want to make sure we get the least amount of it as possible. The devs are working on a fix, but for the meantime, and also just going forward, these tips will help you out significantly. So now that we've been able to address tap firing, centering, kind of making sure you're looking the right way, be able to actually hit people longer distances, and I've talked to you about being able to not necessarily move as much when you're trying to do that. Now we're going to take a look at some of the things that really make a big difference, which is actually some of your attachments, and namely the foregrips are the biggest culprit to having issues or giving you more issues. So you can see that we have this 20-point grip right here, which is honestly one of the better ones to use, because it says it slightly reduces recoil, versus when I go click on this ribbed vertical, it says it moderately reduces recoil at the cost of aim down sights ADS accuracy while moving. Essentially, you're moving so much in this game. that when you start equipping any of these grips, accuracy while, aim down sights while moving, it costs some movement speed and accuracy while aim down sights, these grips for more points are going to harm you. Granted, it shows, hey, you get more precision, you get more control, but how often are you physically standing still? So we're gonna hop in here to the firing range with that general vertical grip on. You guys saw, of course, through ADSing, moving around side to side, I'm still pretty accurate. Like, I'm a very accurate shooter anyways. And now let's go back here to the menu, and we're gonna equip on, basically, we're gonna go for this vertical grip here, which does increase my, of course, my accuracy, or just decreases my accuracy while I'm moving. So we're gonna go in here and we'll put this to a test at longer distance. And you can see, look how much more inaccurate I was simply by moving. And like I said, the only thing I did was changed from this regular alloy vertical grip, which does not reduce any of my accuracy while moving, over to the vertical grip, which should, in theory, help me more and reduce my mobility slightly, but it's not really helping me out at all. You really are moving a lot in Battlefield, so unless you're seriously posted up and you're camping your nuts off, this is not going to be a good grip to use. Stick with things that don't reduce your accuracy, because it makes a large difference. Now we also can get into the ways in which you fire that do mess with your overall gun's accuracy and your ability to hit your shots, which largely comes into when you're actually moving, like you're fully upright, whether you're crouched or whether you're prone. I will tell you guys that when you are upright, you will statistically be the least accurate out of whenever you're playing this game, just because that is when you have the most ability to move around. Thus, you're going to be able to miss shots just by moving. You have the ability to have more bloom because you're standing upright and you're able to move around. So when you get down to a crouch position, your shots get a little bit more accurate, and the most accurate you can get is going down fully prone. So if you're trying to, let's say, lay down some suppressive fire, maybe going prone when using that LMG will yield you the best results as opposed to standing up. I'm telling you guys right now, it does make a difference, and that largely does help you play a very good role of being the support player if that is what you're going for. And now to cover this in terms of what you are going to be most accurate with, now that you have everything else covered in your basis, what type of general, category of guns will you be the most accurate with? An assault rifle, a carbine, SMG, LMG, DMR, sniper, shotgun, so on and so forth. Obviously, a shotgun, it doesn't really matter. You're running around with a shotgun, you are going to be accurate no matter if you're moving, you're hip firing, you're whatever you're doing, as long as your general crosshair, is on somebody, you're going to be pretty accurate. It's hard to miss. I shouldn't say it's hard to miss, because you can't overcorrect, but it's a lot harder to miss. Assault rifles, when you're moving around, will be a very moderate sort of penalty. You can do very well when having an assault rifle on your class. Very, very easy to be able to move around with them. Carbines are going to be in the situation of you have a very low penalty for moving around and shooting. They are meant to be a much more close range build of a gun. Like you can see, my general bullet velocity down here is 787 versus if I go to an assault rifle, and this is essentially 1,000. So they're meant to be close quarters. They got more mobility on them. You guys are going to want to move around with these things a little bit more, though you can be very, very aggressive still with assault rifles. Of course, SMGs are going to be the absolute best for moving around, the best hip fire. You can do some absolute dirty work with them. So if you're going to be moving around, one thing I'd recommend, by the way, is using this PW5A3, aka the MP5. This is an elite SMG, really, really big fan of it. And as far as LMGs go, this will be in a bit of a moderate sort of scenario, kind of like the ARs, because you have LMGs like the L100 or L110, which is a true LMG, versus you have the DRS, which kind of more or less is an LMG, but it functions like an assault rifle with seemingly less bloom. So I'd recommend you guys to use these based on what the actual category is. Of course, something like an M60, not going to be all that great for moving around, but the DRS is one of my favorites for being an aggressive support player. And about the only other thing I can give you guys is some updated controller settings, but that's going to take a whole nother video to kind of go over those properly. So I'll leave a link at the end of this one so you guys can go check out the card on screen to check out my previous video, which discusses all the best settings in absolute depth, which will take care of you. Now that you got the tips and tricks, now you need to just move over and take the proper settings. That being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, check out this other one on screen, and I'll see you all next time.